From the News Channel 5 network, this is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5 political analyst Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. On Monday of this coming week, October 12th, the Judiciary Committee of the United States Senate will begin confirmation hearings for Amy Coney Barrett, who to be the next justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Mrs. Barrett is an appeals court justice who will be replacing longtime liberal court icon Ruth Bader Ginsberg, who passed away 3 weeks ago. Her appointment has already become controversial for several reasons. We'll discuss all that and the future of the U.S. Supreme Court today on Inside Politics. Our guest is Vanderbilt law professor Brian Fitzpatrick. Professor, thank you for joining us on the show, and welcome back.
It's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
You were here last in June of 2018. The president had already nominated and successfully confirmed Neil Gorsuch as his first appointment to the court. He was about to nominate Brett Kavanaugh. We brought his name up about filling the second vacancy. When the swing vote came up, he was replacing Justice Anthony Kennedy. Now the president has his third appointment to the court in less than 4 years. That's rather historic, and that hasn't happened very often.
Yeah, it's rare that a president will get so many nominations in one term. There's been some examples of presidents that have had more than 3 in one term, but it does not happen very often. President Trump got very lucky.
Now, you know Judge Barrett, you're both Notre Dame graduates, but you didn't go to school there at the same time. Where you know each other is you were both clerks for Justice Anton Scalia. So are you both part of the alumni group? I know he's very revered among his clerks, and I suspect you know each other from that situation.
Yes, we do. Yeah, I did go to Notre Dame. I have my Notre Dame green on for you today. But I did not know Judge Barrett there. She preceded me by a few years. We did get to know each other a little bit because we both clerked for Justice Scalia, and Justice Scalia held, before he passed away, reunions every year among his law clerks. And I did get to know her through those annual reunions. I've also gotten to know her a little bit through academic conferences. You know, we've both been law professors for a long time, and we would sometimes be at the same conferences. And so I've gotten to know her through that. She came to Vanderbilt a year ago to judge what we call our moot court, where the students pretend to give arguments in front of judges. And I took her to lunch when she came to Nashville, and I think she's a delightful person, and I hope that they don't rough her up too much in Washington.
Justice Ginsburg and Justice Scalia had a very famous relationship, friendship, even though they were polar opposites in terms of both policy and the law. Have we lost that ability in this country, and not just in our legislative system, but more and more even our judicial system, for people to be able to disagree but still agree to be friends and do that kind of thing? And isn't that bad for the country that we've lost that kind of thing?
Well, I mean, I think it's important to be collegial in whatever profession you're in. And I think even more so with the political profession, because, you know, we have to work together to solve our problems. I don't know if the judges have suffered from the same malaise that has fallen over the legislature. I still think the Supreme Court is a pretty collegial place. You know, when Justice Sotomayor came to Vanderbilt a year or two ago and talked to our students and said to our students one of her favorite people, if not her favorite person on the Supreme Court, is Clarence Thomas. And you don't hear things like that said outside of places like the Supreme Court. Like even on university campuses, when you ask students about Clarence Thomas, all they can say if they disagree with him is that, you know, he's a terrible person. Some of my classmates from Harvard Law School, I've seen some of the things they've said about Amy Coney Barrett. I think it's unfortunate that so much of our country is suffering from this hyper-partisanship where we can't see the good in people who we have different views from. And I don't think it's affected the judges themselves, but it certainly seems to have affected everybody else.
Judge Barrett only has about 3 years of experience on the bench as an appellate judge. I'm not aware she has any district or trial level experience. She has a rather quick rise to go to the top of American jurisprudence. Do you know of any other justices that were confirmed and nominated with that little amount of experience on the court?
That's a good question. You know, Elena Kagan was not a judge at all. She was a law professor and the dean of the Harvard Law School. She had been the Solicitor General for a few years, and she'd worked, you know, in the Clinton administration as a lawyer, but she was not a judge. It used to be more common for Supreme Court justices to come up to the court through other routes besides being lower court judges. But you're right, these days, typically, they pluck justices from the ranks of lower court judges. And, you know, Judge Barrett is quite young, and she had as many years of legal experience as most justices have. But, you know, I think that's a consequence of life tenure. You know, there's a premium that these presidents put on finding young nominees, because then they can serve for longer periods of time and can expand the president's legacy for a longer period of time. And I think it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate consequence of life tenure that there's just this race to find younger and younger people. I think it would be better if we had more seasoned lawyers on our courts.
And one of the legacies of President Trump, whether he serves 1 4-year term or 2 4-year terms, is not only the impact he's had with 3 potential appointments to the Supreme Court, but what he's done on the appellate courts. He's filled many positions down there and on the district courts as well. I mean, the legacy he is leaving, he will have an impact in the courts long before he's left office, and perhaps long after many of us are long gone.
You're absolutely right. President Trump has prioritized the federal judiciary like no other president has. You know, Mitch McConnell's motto is leave no vacancy unfilled. And I think that they are going to get very close to accomplishing that. The president has nominated, I think, more Court of Appeals judges than any other president in one term. And frankly, his nominees have been very high quality. You know, they are very talented people. Some of them are quite young, but they're all very talented, well-credentialed people, the best law schools, really brilliant legal minds. And I think that's a little different than what past presidents have done. A lot of times, past presidents defer to senators in their home states, and a lot of times that meant you could put judges on the bench that had connections to the senators, political favors to the senators. You know, that's really been minimized. The president is choosing just the smartest people he can find, and I really respect him for that.
Vanderbilt Law Professor Brian Fitzpatrick is our guest on Inside Politics. We're talking about the Supreme Court nomination of Amy Coney Barrett, which comes up for the Judiciary Committee beginning on Monday. Back to continue our conversation with the professor after this break.